Hey y'all, it's Meg Casebolt from Love at First Search, and in this video I'm going to be talking you through the process and all the things that you need to think about in order to take your website plan and turn it into a published website. Now obviously we've got a lot to cover here. It's a topic that I could talk about for weeks and months, and there's already so much information around the internet, but I'm going to try to simplify this for you as much as possible in this video and give you as many resources as you need in order to take your idea of what you want your website to be and get it into a format that you can share with the world. If you want to get all of this as a checklist and a blog post that gives you tons of resources, head over to loveatfirstsearch.com/website. You can get all of this written out. You can also get it as a downloadable PDF so that way you can follow along at your own speed. We've got a lot to cover, so I'm going to leap right in. Stick with me and I'll get started right after this. Hi, I'm Meg Casebolt, the founder of Love at First Search, where we help online entrepreneurs to show up in search results, then turn those new visitors into leads, subscribers, and sales. You know, before I started an SEO agency, I was a freelance web designer. And during my 4 years before I specialized in SEO, I built over 100 websites for small businesses. Since I started working exclusively in helping websites to show up in search results, I've hired a team of 4 other people who have been building and optimizing websites for years, and all told, between the 5 of us, we've looked at thousands of websites at this point. So we know what works. We've looked at the analytics and we've come up with 5 steps that you can work through in order to build a basic website really quickly that Google loves. Now, web design is a huge topic. We're the SEO people. We care about what Google cares about. So we're really good making sure the site is structured adequately, making sure that it's loading quickly, making sure that you have the right keyword selections on the right pages in the right places, and that you have links coming into it. We care about all of that stuff. This video is going to talk about much more outside of that, some of the complementary services that go along with web design. So when we get to those places, you can head over to loveatfirstsearch.com/website and you'll see a bunch of resources on these topics, because we don't offer copywriting services or branding services or email marketing services. So we will give you links to some of our partners who do specialize in those topics. But I've been doing this for a while. I have an idea of how all of the pieces fit together, and that's what I want to get across in this video. Not the drilled down detail, but like the 30,000-foot view of everything to consider when you're building your website. All right, so to give you an idea of what we're talking about here are the 5 steps in actually building that basic website. 1 is your copywriting. What are the actual words that you're going to put onto this website? 2 is your visual brand. What are the colors and the fonts and the logo and all of the ways that you want the design of the website to make people feel? Number 3, we're going to add local SEO. So for those of you who are running in-person businesses, we'll add that into the mix. Number 4, we're going to think about your website not as just here are these pages, but think of it as a marketing hub, a place where all of the pieces of your business can work together. And number 5, we'll talk about how you can publish and promote your website, even when it's just that basic framework website that we're just trying to get live and be able to let it start working for you. All right, so let's get started with number 1, copywriting. This is a huge topic. I'm going to boil this down to 3 things to think about when you're working on the words in your website. Number 1, make sure you know who you're talking to and make it clear to them that you're talking to them. Now, you don't have to be super on the nose with this. You don't have to be like, this is for women who are 35 to 55, who are unsatisfied with their lives. Like, that's a little too obvious, right? But you can choose the words and phrases that the people that you're trying to attract and your website would use when they're explaining what they want or when they have a problem that you can solve for them. Here's a good tip. You may want to start collecting the phrases that you hear your ideal clients use, whether that's on sales calls or in inquiries or just kind of around the internet when people are talking about these problems. Just start to collect those phrases that they're using. That can come in really handy in making it feel to your ideal customer like you are reading their mind. Another thing to consider with your copy is that, especially when people are finding you in search results, they don't know you yet. So your website copy shouldn't actually be about you or your business. If people are finding you and they don't know you, they don't care about you yet. That doesn't mean they won't. They're not cold-hearted people, but they're thinking, what's in this for me? If they have a problem and they're seeking out a solution and your website shows up, they don't know you yet. they know that you might have a solution to what's bothering them. So instead of saying, hi, I'm a therapist and I went to school for social work and I help people in New York, here's my licenses, that doesn't matter to them until they know that we're going to you for therapy can help them with their anxiety or their depression or overcoming trauma responses. Your copy should be focused on what your potential customer is going to get out of working with you, not about you. I'm sorry, I bet you're great. But until you've shown me that you can solve my problem, I don't need to know your life history. And the third copywriting piece to consider is that you want to have what's called a call to action on every page. A call to action is your way of saying, hey, here's the next step. So on my website, as a services provider, our call to action is either find out how we can work together or get on my email list. But calls to action can look different. I've already given you calls to action here in this video. You may not have even noticed them because you're so used to the way that people talk on YouTube. But my call to action to you was go over to loveitfirstsearch.com/website and check out the whole guide and download the PDF and figure out what to do next, right? That is the next step that I want you to take from this video. So if you're running an e-commerce shop, you may want to include your top selling products to give people an idea of how they can buy from you. If you're running a services business, maybe an application or a link to book a consult call with you. And if you want people to get on your email list, you may want to have some sort of incentive or lead magnet so that they have a reason to hop on your email list. There's some sort of reciprocity there. They're giving you their email list and they're getting some sort of freebie or guide or quiz or whatever that call to action is, whatever that lead magnet is. Pro tip, copywriting secret, you can have lots of calls to action. Most people don't do enough. They don't tell people what to do. And so they have a higher bounce rate, or they don't have as many people who express their interest, who raise their hand, who say that they want to take that next step. Statistically, the more calls to action you have, the more likely somebody is to take that action. So don't be afraid to tell people what to do. It's okay to be bossy in your website copy. I give you permission. Step 2 is to figure out your visual brand. This is the time to figure out what you want your website to look and feel like. When I was doing web design and branding, this was one of my favorite things to do, is go on Pinterest and look at all of the color palettes and all of the font options and understand the color psychology behind those choices and figure out how I want the photography to fit into it. Finally, we're getting to the fun part. This is what so many people think of first when they think about website design. We're finally here. Now, I don't have time to talk through brand theory right now, so we do have a list of resources at loveitfirstsearch.com/website. See, there's that call to action, where we share resources to brand designers that we've worked with so that you can dig deeper into this. Step 3, we finally get to start building. We decided, like in the last video, I talked through all the planning of how do you decide what platform you want to be on and your domain and all that stuff. Now we're finally there. Now we create the account, we start choosing the themes or templates, because on WordPress they call them themes and on Shopify and Squarespace they call them templates. Same, right? Okay, same deal. And then you're gonna figure out the structure and the wireframing and how do you want things to go in a certain order. If you don't want to build from scratch, you can choose a theme that has sample ideas of what those pages can look like that you can pull in and then customize. If you know exactly how you want it to look, you can just start to kind of pull things together and start coding them. You can also choose to use what's called a page builder. If you're on WordPress, these are tools like Elementor or Beaver Builder or Divi, where you can actually just like drag and drop blocks into different places. Typically, if you're using a page builder, it can slow down your page speed a little bit. So you may have to adjust in other ways by like making sure your images are compressed and making sure that, you know what, I'm not going to get into the technical SEO here. Just know that if you're using one of those page builders, it may slow things down a little bit and you may have to make some other adjustments. Totally okay. I use a page builder on my site. It's all good. I'm not saying do or don't, just make a decision that makes sense for you. If you're running a local business, if you have people that you meet with in person or they come to your shop, step 4 in this process is to add local SEO to your website. Now, this is super important if you're running an in-person business. So whether you have a brick and mortar shop that people are coming into, you provide services to people at their homes, or you go to trade shows nearby and, craft shows and things like that. If you're even selling through other businesses in your area, you absolutely want to have local SEO set up on your website. And honestly, even if you're like me and you don't necessarily work locally, it doesn't hurt to do some of these things because it makes you seem more human. I have people reach out to me regularly and say like, oh, I used to live in Buffalo and oh, I went to Syracuse University. And it's a way for people to connect with me. Even if they live in California or London, they're telling me that they recognize that I'm a person in a space and they have something to connect with me about. So even if you're running an online business, it doesn't hurt to just explain where you are. And also there are some industries where even when you're working online, even if you're doing all your calls on Zoom, people still want to work with people local to them. Recently, I had a health coach in Arizona who was like, why are all these people in Phoenix finding me? I work online. And it's like, well, because they just want somebody nearby. It makes you more trustworthy. So don't rule this out just because you're an online business. All right, so what are those local SEO steps? 1, set up your Google business profile. You can go to business.google.com. You can set it up for free. There is a little bit of a lag time in getting this set up because they need to verify that you're actually a person. If you do have a brick and mortar location, you can put the address in and you'll show up in Google Maps. If you don't, like if you provide services to people at their locations, or if you're like a photographer who travels to weddings and stuff, you can put in your address so that way it recognizes that you are in fact there, but click a little button that says, I provide goods and services to my clients at their location. And Google won't share your address with the internet because that is creepy and not everyone wants to be stalked. So my Google business page just shows up as Monroe County, New York. It doesn't have to be scary. And you can also be found for keywords in your Google business profile. So make sure that some of those things that you were thinking about putting on your website, you can also put into the services or the description on your Google business profile. And then include a link to your website because that's a really good way for Google to know that your website and your business profile are for the same business. Sometimes we forget basic things like this. It's okay. And then on your actual website, there are a couple places where you can integrate information about where you live and who you serve. So on your homepage, come out and say where you are. I once worked with an accountant in Arizona who had like cactuses all over her site, which was an indicator to the right people that she was in Arizona, but she forgot to actually come out and say, I have an office in Tempe. Because we forget these things, right? We know our businesses so well that we forget the foundations of what other people don't know about us. That's okay. It's very normal. On your contact page, you can also include information about either where you are or where you serve. So again, if you're like a wedding photographer, you can say, here are the counties that I'll travel to. And then you can also take your map from Google Business Profile and embed it right into your contact form. That's another indicator to Google of exactly where you are. And it makes it really easy for people to get driving directions. And again, send that signal to Google that this Google Business Profile is for this website. You can also include information in the footer of your website. If you do have a brick and mortar location, this is a good time to include what's called your NAP, name, address, and phone number, because of course SEO people have to make everything into an acronym. If you're not, then you can just include that information like we do, where we say where our headquarters is in Rochester, New York. Sometimes when people get to this point, it can feel like your website is just a brochure for your services that lives online. And if that's the case, that's fine. If you can share it with people and they can validate that you are in fact the expert that they need, then they can still buy your products or hire you. But in addition to being a brochure that you can share with people, you can also think of your website as the hub of where all of your digital marketing lives. Now is the time to start linking up any social media accounts that you have into your website. Yeah, I know I have a whole podcast about how to be less dependent on social media in your digital marketing, but that doesn't mean social media is bad or wrong, and it's certainly not going anywhere. So you can include it in your website, and people who come to your website, they might just not be ready to buy yet. They might want to follow you for a little bit on their favorite channels, so you can link them over there. They can get to know you there, and then they can come back to your website when they're ready to buy. And this doesn't have to be like a giant call to action box where it's like, hey, come join my Facebook group, right? You can just have icons to wherever you have social media accounts in like your menu bar at the top and your footer at the bottom. And people who are looking for it can usually find it because that's typically where we see those icons. So people who want to follow you can, but it doesn't have to be like a big blatant over the head, come follow me in all the places. The next thing is to integrate your email software with your website. So I already said that when people come to your website, website, you want to have a way to capture their information, whether that's, buying a product or just joining your email list. So now's the time to choose an email service provider and then set it up so that when people sign up for your email list on your website, they get maybe an automated email saying, hey, thanks for joining. And that way you don't have to add them to spreadsheets and send anything out. It's just kind of taken care of for you. If you're not planning to do a ton of email marketing, if you just want to gather people's names and maybe send like a newsletter every month or two, then you can use a really simple solution like MailerLite or Flowdesk. If you're planning to have email as a central part of your marketing strategy, then you may want a tool that is more robust, that can do more. So you can do segmentation and tagging and send different emails to different people on your list and have automated nurture sequences and all sorts of fancy things like that. If that's the case, the two tools that we have used and recommend are ConvertKit and ActiveCampaign. We've found ConvertKit to be slightly easier to use and ActiveCampaign to have slightly better tracking. So whichever one works for you, we'll have links to those in the show notes. This is a YouTube video. Now, I'm not going to tell you how to connect your specific email service provider to your specific website software, but this is where Google comes in handy. Just be like, how to connect ConvertKit to Squarespace, and the Google will tell you these things. But the short explanation is that you're going to copy what's called an API key from your email service provider, and then you're going to paste it into either a plugin or a setting on your website, and then that will just connect them and make sure that everything plays well with each other. The next step is to set up your website analytics so that way you know where people are coming from and how they're behaving when they get to your site. For many years, I've been recommending Google Analytics for the way to do this. It is a free tool. It is very robust, but we've had a lot of complaints lately about Google Analytics and the fact that it's tracking a lot of information that it shouldn't be. So if you have any concerns, the two options that I would give that are alternatives to Google Analytics, they are not free, but they're like less than $10 a month, are called Fathom Analytics and Plausible Analytics. I'm sure I'll do a video about them very soon, so I'll link that up when it's ready. But in the meantime, you can grab those links in the description or head over to loveitfirstsearch.com/website and you can get that information there. This is also the time to install Google Search Console, which plays well with Google Analytics and Fathom Analytics and Plausible Analytics. And what Google Search Console will tell you is how people are behaving on Google and who's clicking through to your website, so you can get that information pulled right into your whatever your analytics platform of choice is. And I have so many videos already about Google Search Console, so we'll link up some of those too. And a video for me wouldn't be complete if I didn't talk about keyword research. I am who I am, right? But I already have tons of resources about how to find the right keywords for pages and how to assign them to pages and where they go. So we will link to all of that below. The basic idea here is that you want to have an idea of the types of things that people would search for every page. And then you want to sprinkle some of those specific phrases around key places on that page. So your SEO title and your meta description are what show up in the actual search results. And then you can also include it in what shows up on the page. If you want a step-by-step guide for how to get started with keyword research and where everything goes and installing analytics and all of that, head over to loveitfirstsearch.com/success. You can check out our SEO Setup Success mini course. It's self-paced and it's got a bunch of smaller bite-sized trainings to really walk you through this process right at this stage. We're not talking about blogging and podcasting and cross-linking and all those advanced strategies yet. This is just like, what is the basic SEO information that I need in order to get my website up and running. And then step 5 is to actually, launch your website. Hooray, you did it, confetti. All right, I'm going to take off my SEO hat and I'm going to put on like my executive coach hat for you guys, which is that launching a website is really hard and there's a lot of self-doubt that goes into this and a lot of comparisonitis when you look around the internet and you're like, oh, all their websites are prettier than mine. Or maybe some imposter complex is showing up for you where you're like, do I really deserve to be running this business? Is this real? Will people actually work with me? Will they actually buy these things that I love selling? If you're feeling that self-doubt and that lack of confidence, know that that is a totally normal thing at this stage. And I want to give you just like a little friendly nudge to push through it and do it anyway. This is a really scary moment in web design where you're putting yourself out into the world and you don't know what people's reactions are, right? If you just started your business and so far all of your leads have come from local networking and you're talking to people in person, you can get their feedback on it. Whereas if you're putting something out into the world, you don't know what people's reactions can be, and that is scary. But this website is, first of all, it's awesome. And you should celebrate the fact that you got this to this point, because a lot of people have ideas for how to start a business and they never get to this phase because they're too scared. And you are brave and powerful and you deserve success from this. And it's a lot of work. So when you finally launch the website, I want you to celebrate in some way. For us on our team, it's like a bar of chocolate and a massage and a glass of wine, but find a way that's meaningful to you. Because this is an accomplishment, even if it doesn't feel finished yet. Because 2, it's not. Your website is not done right now. It will never be done. And if you wait until it's perfect, you will be missing out on clients finding you. You will be missing out on opportunities for people to share it for you. Because here's the thing, your website will not generate clients or customers for you on day one. Wait, no, that's not true. Your website will not generate cold clients or cold traffic for you on day one. It might take a little bit of time for Google to understand that you're there. You might need to build it out a little bit more, which we'll talk about in the next video. But you can share your website with your network. You can post on social media that now you have this website, you'd love to share it with people. You can email the link out to your friends and family and say, hey, I'm doing this thing. Do you know anyone? You can leverage your website already. No, you may not have a ton of email leads coming in right away. You might not have a ton of new people coming from social media right away. That's okay. Lean into your network, get those discovery calls from people who already know you, hone your craft, figure out what your messaging is, and then move into stage 3, which is when we're going to expand our website a little bit more. We're going to optimize it more once we have data from having put it out into the world. Because as soon as you publish it, within a day or two, Google's going to notice it there. It's going to start looking through the information on your website and saying, who is this for? What is the point of this website? Who needs this website? And it will start to throw you into some search results. It might not get you traffic right away. It might be like you're on the 10th page of results, but you can start to look at that data in Search Console and be like, oh, that's what Google thinks I do. That's not exactly right. How do I need to change my messaging to be closer? Or you might find some of those phrases that can go back into your copywriting and be like, oh, I didn't know people were thinking about that. I need to adjust this to sound more like my clients. This is the point where done is better than perfect. Be imperfect, get that imperfect basic website out there and let it start working for your marketing. And honestly, that might be it for you. You might not need to move on to stage 3 where we build out much more on your website. This might get you the clients you need. If you're a high-touch service provider and you only work with 10 people a year, this website at this stage might be all you need to fill your entire business. So don't feel like you need to do more. But if you do want your website to do more for you, you can hop ahead to stage 3 and figure out how to get even more people to find you, how to get them to convert better, and how to turn your website into a lead generation engine. If you don't want to miss that next video, make sure to subscribe to the channel. If you want to get this entire guide, read it right on the website or download it as a PDF, you can head over to loveitforsearch.com/website to get this entire stack of information in a much more comprehensive format than what I can talk about in 15 minutes. And I'll see you in the next video where we talk about how to continue to grow your website so that way you can get more leads from it. See you then.